Good morning, baby gamers.
This is Breaking the Lore,
The show where two girlfriends dig deep.
to find the weirdest and most obscure bits of trivia.
I'm Nissa's girlfriend, Sarah.
And I'm Sarah's girlfriend, Nissa.
So buckle up because tonight's episode is...
What's this? What's this? Nissa singing a song. What's this? What's this? This bit can't go on long. What's this? I can't come up with more lyrics. I guess this song is ending now. What's this? The Nightmare Before Christmas, if you couldn't tell by that really atrocious parody.
The what mare before this, miss?
Do you think before you speak, or do you just say whatever comes into your head?
I never thought before I spoke in my life.
It really does show, sweetheart. But yeah, this episode is The Nightmare Before Christmas. I completely wung that parody. I put maybe like 10 seconds of thought into the lyrics, as you can very clearly tell. Maybe I'll record a full version for Patreon. Maybe I won't. Who knows? But
I think you did a good job.
You think so? Yeah. It's kind of off the cuff.
It was cute.
Okay, I'm glad it was cute. What's your experience with The Nightmare Before Christmas?
Well, I saw it as a kid, and I liked the movie. I thought it was pretty good. I tend to watch it around the holiday season every year because I enjoy it, and I will die on the hill that it is a Christmas movie.
Oh, you're jumping the gun a little bit. I was going to ask you that after we were done with
Oh,
our experiences. So I guess, well, we know where you stand on that now.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. When I went to Disneyland, I bought a Jack Skellington Mickey ear hat.
Aw.
This would have been about 2011 or something.
Oh.
Yeah, that's. I think it's a good movie. I try to watch it every year. I like it a lot. It's fun. I don't have much like anything special about it. I just like it.
Pretty good. I watched it later in life. I remember when I was a little kid, I was like really scared of anything like remotely associated with scariness. So like skeletons or like even like a skull was too much for me. So I was just a very easily scared kid. I remember the first time I saw anything about it was an episode of oh my God, what was that show called? It wasn't Home Improvement. It was like, because that's a sitcom. It was that one where they like go to people's houses and they like revamp them. Extreme Makeover Home Edition. That show.
Oh,
okay. The like literal only episode of that show I've ever seen involved the son was like a big fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, so he had a Nightmare Before Christmas themed room in the revamp. And I remember I like was just like mortified because this was still when I was like really scared of everything, and I was like, who would want a room like that? Like, how would you sleep? So I avoided it for a while, and then I think sometime in high school I like eased up, and I watched it at some point in high school for the first time, and I really liked it. I found it really enjoyable. I didn't get like super into it or make it my whole personality or like anything like that, but I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun movie. I had an ex who was super into it during college. That's about it. It's always been a kind of like background interest, like something I don't really think about, but like when it comes up, I'm like, oh, I like that movie. It's a really good movie. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like, I don't think about it much, but when I do, I'm like, that's a good movie. I like watching it.
Yeah, like it's not my favorite movie. It's not a movie I think about all the time, but it's a movie I genuinely really enjoy watching. I was really excited that we were doing this episode, and I really enjoyed watching it before recording, so we could kind of get the vibe and get some information.
It's got such a fun aesthetic, I think.
It is. No, yeah, I agree with that. And backing off, piggybacking on that and what you said, I also think it's a Christmas movie. I think it can be watched in both seasons. I'm not like super I'm not gonna like come down on anyone for watching it on Halloween, but I think it's a Christmas movie with Halloween aesthetics. Is how I would describe it.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Because like it's
It's
ultimately
about like
about
what if Halloween tried
Christmas.
to be
Yeah,
Christmas? Yeah.
it's it's about Christmas. It just has Halloween aesthetics.
Mhm.
Um,
And I think that's why it's like fun to watch in like early November
well, yeah, I was just
as
about to
like
say.
one of your first Christmas movies of the season. I think is a great time to watch it.
I was just about to say. I remember someone making a case that Over the Garden Wall is less of a before Halloween thing and more of a like November thing, since the like plot of the thing takes place through like Halloween through to winter.
I mean, it really is, especially like I mean, it aired like the first week of November.
Yeah. So
Like,
like I could see this being like a similar sort of thing where like kind of the ultimate time to watch it is like that November holiday
that transitional
transition.
period.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
transition between Halloween and Christmas. I know Thanksgiving exists. But
Who
Halloween,
cares?
I know you have very strong feelings about Thanksgiving. I don't have very strong feelings about it. I should clarify, you have very strong negative feelings about Thanksgiving, but
I think it's kind of lame.
I know you do. I know. But but yeah. So yeah, I think that covers all of the things I want to say about my background with Nightmare Before Christmas. But since you took my previous question that I was going to ask before we got into the lore,
Sorry.
yeah, you should be. Um, what is your favorite background Halloween Town resident? Because I remember we talked about this when we were watching the movie.
Okay, background Halloween Town residents. Um, I like um, I like the like bat guy that walks on his wings.
Oh yeah, that's a good
That one's
one.
fun.
I think that one's called the Demon Kid or something like that.
Yeah, and I like the one that's like the guy that has the hat, and there's like a smaller version of him that inside the hat with a smaller version of him inside the hat.
Oh,
I think that one's funny.
the like Matryoshka Mr. Hyde guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one. You got good taste. I like.
good.
I mean, you know, my favorite ones are. I have like three favorites. I like the like mermaid swamp lady with like the fin ears.
Oh, I like her too. Yeah.
She's really cool. I actually have I have more favorites actually because I also really like the hanging tree. Um, but I mean that's just because I really like plant monsters. So like the hanging tree is pretty much a shoe-in. And then I also like the little mummy kid and the one-eyed
Hmm.
the monster with the big green one eye.
Yeah.
So I have four favorites, but I
This movie has good character design.
it does. Like that's why I decided to salvage the Q&A with that because I think it has a lot of really fun background characters and a lot of like fun creative and especially impressive when you consider that like all of them are handmade like
Yeah.
play figures. Like the amount of work that went into making this movie is ridiculous in a good way.
It's so cool. Stop motion is impressive, and if you can do it well, it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
like the fact that the movie is as beautiful and well animated as it is astounding. And I've never understood stop motion from a perspective of how to make it look good. So I'm really impressed whenever I see a really good stop motion film.
Mm-hmm.
But that's enough meandering, I think. So let's, break the lore.
All right, we're breaking some lore.
All right. So, I mean, I guess an important thing when establishing the lore of this is kind of breaking down first where this lore comes from, because it's not just a movie.
It's not.
The
Yeah.
movie is definitely the most popular part of this, but it's actually a very small multimedia franchise. There's the movie, The Nightmare Before Christmas. There is I'm going to go in actually timeline order. There is a video game on, I believe, the Game Boy Advance called The Pumpkin King, which is the beginning of the timeline. Then there's the original movie, The Nightmare Before Christmas. There's another video game, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge, which is a sequel. It's about a direct sequel. I think it takes place like a year later. And then a comic, Zero's Journey, which is very hard to find online. And
We really couldn't find it.
We read like the first issue and then tried to find synopses. It's very hard to dig up, but
It wasn't even like the first issue. It was like the free comic book day preview issue. That's all we could find.
It was better than nothing. It gave us.
It was.
It gave us like probably what I think is going to end up being the most important lore from that comic. So,
All right.
we found something interesting there. And then there's an epilogue to the film that takes place many years in the future, which I assume would be after every other piece of media in the series.
Yeah.
On the soundtrack CD to the original film. So that's everything we're working with material-wise. That's where all of this is drawn from. We've just watched the movie. Like I said, we read a little bit of the Zero's Journey comic, and I watched the cutscenes for Oogie's Revenge, but that's about it for the rest of it. I do want to play it, though. It looks fun.
It does look fun.
For people that don't know it, which I assume is a lot of people because I had never heard of it, the gameplay is Devil May Cry inspired. It's a third-person 3D action beat-em up. Jack gets this weapon called I think it's like the Soul Stealer or something like that, and it's this like those like green sticky hands.
Sticky hands, yeah.
Yeah,
I love those.
Like those lime green, and like they're like on a like tether, and you like wing them around.
Yeah, you whack them.
It's literally one of those. That is his main weapon in the game. Is the Soul Stealer, but it's just a green sticky hand.
I love that.
So yeah, it's Devil May Cry, but like you're playing as Jack with a green sticky hand. So it looks like a ton of fun. I'd honestly love to play it at some point. I like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry and games like that.
Hack and slash.
Yeah, like 3D beat 'em up. But yeah, so that's just kind of what we're dealing with. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of interesting lore to dig into. But actually, I believe not technically within the canon of this multimedia franchise, but there is actually one more piece of media relating to this. And I believe you researched that? You looked into it?
Yes, so I read the original poem that the movie was based on, and like, it's honestly like, it follows, the movie follows the poem actually really well, really closely.
The poem was written by
Tim Burton.
Ah, okay. So
that's why it's Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. He wrote the poem. He didn't direct the movie.
Right, because he didn't. It's a misnomer that he directed it. It was Henry Selick, I think.
Yeah, it was Henry Selick.
Directed the movie.
Tim Burton gets all the credit. He just had the idea. He didn't make the movie.
And he wrote the poem. So yeah, tell me about the poem. I want to hear about it.
So yeah, it follows the plot of the movie. You know, Jack's like depressed about Halloween, and he stumbles onto Christmas Land and everything. But where it diverges is Jack's like motivation.
Yeah.
'Cause like he doesn't just like want to try out Christmas. He like thinks it's an injustice that all the Halloween people are like, they just have to scare. They don't get to be jolly.
Oh, so he doesn't. So he doesn't like Halloween. Like he likes Halloween, but he doesn't like that they have to be. Like in the movie, he's kind of bored, midlife crisis-y, but he seems to like enjoy that their lot in life is Halloween. He just wants to spice it up.
Yeah. So what he says in the poem, this is the actual quote. Why is it that they get to spread laughter and cheer, while we stalk the graveyards, spreading panic and fear? Well, I could be Santa, and I could spread cheer. Why does he get to do it year after year? Outraged by injustice, Jack thought and he thought. Then he got an idea. Yes, why not? And then he goes to kidnap Santa Claus.
So in this version, Jack sounds pretty different, actually. Like he doesn't sound,
yeah.
Like, he doesn't sound like he's got that like malaise, like very just like he's just tired. He sounds like he's vindictive. He sounds like angry. Like it doesn't sound like he like gets bored and wants to experiment. It sounds like he's like, I'm like Jack's fucking pissed.
Exactly, yeah. And like he like tells Santa Claus that he gets to go sleep in a coffin now. It's his turn to be Santa Claus.
Harsh. That's
yeah. And he isn't like, make Santa feel good, just give him a break. He's like, no, go kidnap him. Force him to come here. We're taking over Christmas. So it's a lot, it's a lot more, he's a lot meaner in this one.
No, yeah, I don't think, I can see why they changed it. I don't think he'd make, like, the most sympathetic protagonist. I mean, I think he'd still be a protagonist, but I don't think he'd be quite as sympathetic as the more heroic.
Yeah, like in the movie, Jack's a lot more like well-meaning. He's just trying to have a good time, but he does it a bad way.
Like in this case, he's like an interesting example of like a sort of like villain where you can understand the justification, but he's still like acting in vindictive, cruel ways.
Mm-hmm. He's stealing Christmas, is what he's doing.
He's being the Grinch.
Yeah.
But he almost sounds like a composite of Jack and Oogie Boogie. Is Oogie in the original poem?
There is no mention of any sort of Oogie Boogie type. There's really not any other characters mentioned for like in the poem. It's really just Jack and Zero.
So it's just Jack, Zero, and Santa. There's no like Sally or Oogie or anything.
They don't mention any other characters. They mention like people existing. Like Santa has elves and there's like citizens of Halloween Town, but they don't give names to any of them or anything.
Interesting. But I mean, that makes sense. When you adapt a poem into a feature-length film, you have to...
you gotta add some meat there. You
gotta pad the runtime and put some more things in. So it definitely makes sense that that Oogie would be added to the film. But that's
and Oogie was obviously added to make Jack a more sympathetic protagonist. So, like, he's not doing bad stuff. It's Oogie that's doing the bad stuff.
Sort of taking out Jack's worst qualities and giving them to Oogie Boogie.
Softening his edges.
But yeah, I mean, Oogie Boogie's an interesting one in general. He's a very strange character in this.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of like interesting stuff. He gets expanded a lot in both The Pumpkin King and Oogie's Revenge, where he's the main villain of both. Zero's Journey, he just appears as like a statue in the graveyard. He's very much gone for real that time. I believe I believe Zero's Journey is the end of the timeline minus the CD epilogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's got like a whole variety of powers that you don't really see in the original film. At one point in Oogie's Revenge, or at several points rather, he can control his shadow like a monster. He can just have his shadow, like he can move through his shadow, like his physical body staying in his lair, but like he can attack people and control things with his shadow as like a proxy, sort of astral projecting type stuff.
That's weird.
It is. No, yeah, because you don't fight Oogie Boogie himself until the very end of the game. But you have several boss fights with Oogie Boogie, and like each time it's just his shadow. Even when you go to his lair and like fight him in his casino, he's like, hey, it was just my shadow the whole time. That was not a good impression of him. That's my own take on him. That's my version.
Let's reboot Nightmare Before Christmas. We got our Oogie Boogie voice actor here.
No, that was really bad. Distraction. Another power he has is there's this interesting part. He like at the end of Oogie's Revenge for the final boss, he like becomes huge. Like I guess this makes sense with the fact that he's composed of like a bunch of bugs all like sort of clinging together with like a presumably like some kind of master bug and like all wrapped up. But like at the end of the game for the final boss, he like falls and then a bunch of bugs come over and like bring more like fabric and garbage and things, and they make him into this gigantic Oogie Boogie.
So Oogie Boogie Dynamaxes.
Yeah, he Gigantamaxes because he looks quite different. He's got like spikes and like different colors. He's got this like giant like weird thing over his heart. He he Gigantamaxes. So yeah, it's interesting that like he has a lot more powers than he kind of shows off. But maybe that's why Lock, Shock, and Barrel seem to worship him. I noticed that
they really do. It's weird.
Yeah, like I noticed that when we were watching the movie. I've never noticed it before, but like In their song when they're going to Oogie Boogies, when they like feed the bug cage down, they like kneel and pray.
Okay.
Like I think it's the two boys. They like get on their knees and they make like prayer hands as the girl like sends the bug down. Like
Either Oogie Boogie is God or could kill God.
but yeah, no, it very much reads as like it very much reads as like a like praying like sacrifice to a god type thing. It's really interesting. And I kind of wish it was delved into more. I think that'd be my one complaint with the expanded universe of Nightmare Before Christmas. Um,
You know what? Yeah, the story group really needs to get on that.
Listen, it's a valid like we see Lock, Shock, and Barrel working for him in every story that includes him, but we never like really find out like why. Like we don't really like
Yeah,
hear
it
about
kind of
them
seems like Oogie
worshiping him.
Boogie. Kind of feels like Oogie Boogie just doesn't get like any explanation.
Well, he gets some degree of explanation. He does, not Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Um, if you want, I mean, he actually does have a relatively detailed backstory, which is rather interesting. Um,
I'm listening.
so he's not from Halloween Town.
He's not.
Nope. He was originally his own holiday mascot. Um, Oogie Boogie apparently was once the holiday mascot of a holiday called Bug Day. Um,
Why was there a bug day?
I don't know, but there was in
Oh,
some country or somewhere celebrated a holiday called Bug Day. Um, Maybe it was a bug tournament like in Animal Crossing. I don't really know. I don't think the wiki had much information on Bug Day. I think it's just casually mentioned in Pumpkin King at some point. Um, but so he was the mascot of Bug Day, and um, this actually brings us to what's going to become a very long and interesting discussion, which is how the world works and how the holiday worlds work. Because do you want to know the reason why he's in Halloween Town now?
desperately.
Um, Bug Day World doesn't exist anymore. Um,
It just doesn't exist. It just stopped existing.
Apparently, um, people stopped celebrating Bug Day, and because people stopped celebrating it, um, the world disappeared. He didn't die. And presumably all the bugs from presumably the bug that is his like brain or like his head bug was like the actual mascot, and like all the other bugs were like the other citizens, and they all like this is me speculating. There's no information
Okay.
on this, but I'm speculating that like the head bug was like the mascot and the other ones like all banded together to make Oogie Boogie. Um and he goes like it takes refuge at Halloween Town because his world just doesn't exist anymore. Um, which directly leads into his motivation for how he gets banished in the first place, which is that he tries to take over Halloween Town with bugs to make it new Bug Town. Like he tries to turn Halloween into Bug Day 2, essentially. Um, so he can
But like, would that work though? Because like, if Bugland, Bugtown,
uh-huh.
stopped existing because people stopped celebrating Bug Day,
Uh-huh.
then wouldn't turning Halloween Town into Bugtown make it stop existing? Because that's not going to make people celebrate Bug Day instead of Halloween.
Well, that's the question. Like, I guess maybe if he successfully rebranded Halloween to a bug-based holiday in the real world, but I don't know. I genuinely don't know if his plan holds any weight. Like, he sure tries, but I don't know if he would be able to successfully do it.
Gotta respect the hustle.
You do. That brings me to what I think is going to be the meat of this episode, like I said. And so, holidays, if they stop existing, they, I mean, if people stop celebrating them, their world stops existing. So I'm going to put a pin in that, and we're going to come back to it after a little more discussion. We're going to circle back to it.
Okay.
So, pop quiz. What are the
Yes.
holiday doors in Nightmare Before Christmas as seen in the video games, comics? Like, what are the only doors we see per all of the extended media?
Halloween,
Uh-huh.
Christmas,
Yep, you got the easy ones.
Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
Easter,
Yep.
Valentine's Day,
Uh-huh.
St. Patrick's Day,
Yep.
and the 4th of July.
Nailed it. Perfect score.
Okay. Hell yeah, 100%.
So, these holidays exist. And furthermore, they're all like very Americanized versions. Well, I mean, they're also all very American holidays in general.
Yes.
Like, it's Valentine's Day. It's not, for example, Red Day, White Day, I think is what Japan celebrates, like in lieu of Valentine's Day. It's Halloween, which is a very American holiday in general. Thanksgiving, like it's not like Canadian Thanksgiving or like
Yeah, no, it's the American.
it's American
yeah.
Thanksgiving.
I mean, we assume like
Well,
it has a turkey on
presumably.
the door. We don't
That's-
actually we don't see the world.
I
It has a
guess
turkey on the
that's
door.
true. I am making some assumptions based on the fact that Christmas and Halloween are like celebrated in their very like traditional American ways, and Valentine's Day would possibly also be. I'm making an assumption, but I think it's an educated guess. But so like that always struck me as interesting. It struck me as very interesting that Independence Day. There we go. We don't need to look anywhere further to see a holiday that is very American centric. Like it's very clearly 4th of July.
Yeah, it's a firework door.
It's a firework, yeah. So like it's very clear. Like we have these only 7, and all very American centric. Like we're missing tons of holidays. Obviously, like there's no Hanukkah door, Kwanzaa, like Boxing Day, Yom Kippur, April Fool's Day, Arbor Day. I could just rattle off holidays all episode. I could list them till I'm blue in the face. And there's
Well,
tons.
hold on.
I'm holding.
There doesn't need to be an Arbor Day door because all of the doors exist in Arbor Day land because it's full of trees, baby.
Okay.
That's all I got. These are the
guess
jokes, people.
I guess
These
you're
are the
right.
jokes.
I guess maybe you're right. So that brings me to my next point before we circle back. In the first song, just kidding, in Jack's introduction song, is that part of the This Is Halloween song?
What do you mean? What part
Jack's
are you
like
talking about?
when he sings about being the Pumpkin King. Is that like the end of that song, or is that a separate song? It doesn't matter.
That's a separate song. Yeah.
But yeah, so in Jack's song, where he introduces himself, he specifically mentions being known throughout England and France. And that struck me as very strange, because I took French for several years in high school and middle school. I don't remember any of it, so please don't ask me to say anything in it. I cannot speak French, despite studying it for many years. But I remembered when we were taking that class, a very specific mention that Halloween isn't really a thing there. It has. I did a bunch of research into it because I didn't want to just be baselessly saying things. And Halloween has started to uptick a little bit in France. Like, I believe wasn't it the 90s? There started to be like little like costume parties at bars.
Yeah, like hipsters would be celebrating starting in the 90s.
Yeah, like starting in the 90s, there were small Halloween celebrations. In the modern day, trick-or-treating still isn't much of a thing, but like there's like more celebration, like a little more. It's picking up a bit, but it's still not like a widely nationally recognized holiday.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it struck me as weird researching that like Jack is known throughout France as a holiday figure, despite Halloween not really being a thing in France.
Well, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he just likes to go to France to scare people. Maybe he's not associated with Halloween there. He just scares people and they're like, "Oh, a skeleton man. Oh."
I mean, I guess that's possible, but do you...
Or sorry. They'd be French. They'd be like, "Oh, the skeleton man." Ho 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 ho. No. No.
You said, wow. I'm gonna move past that. So,
Okay.
um, so anyway, like I guess that's possible, but like, I guess that raises the question: how much do you think they leave their specific holiday realms outside of their holiday?
That's a really good question. Because, like, we know they're not limited to leaving on their holiday.
Correct.
Jack's able to just go Christmas.
Yeah,
Christmas,
like
Christmas
he wouldn't
that.
be able
Like,
to leave for Christmas if they had to stay any day that isn't their holiday. But how much do you? Because I get the sense from the movie that they really don't leave except for their holiday, and that it's like even strange that Jack leaves on Christmas. Because I mean, Sally doesn't like it. She says it's dangerous, which
Yeah.
implies to me that it just doesn't happen.
I guess, I don't know. It's a. Most of them probably don't leave. Maybe some of them do. Like, maybe, like, the vampires do if they have to go feed. But, like,
I guess I don't know. I just the entire we can agree to disagree. We've disagreed on lore in the past, but I personally my interpretation is that they don't really leave except for their holiday, and that it's viewed as very strange and even dangerous for them to do the opposite of that.
I I agree. I don't think they do it on the regular, but and it's probably frowned upon, but it's not impossible.
So, which brings me to my next point, which is, do you think, based on everything that we know, which recapping, there are 7 confirmed holidays. There seems not to be more holiday doors based on all the extended media, which in Oogie's Revenge, I forgot to mention, the main plot involves Oogie kidnapping all of the holiday leaders, and it is that 7. We conveniently don't see the leaders. Do you want to speculate on who the rest of them are? I mean, we know Jack, we know Santa, we know the Easter Bunny.
I mean, I think most of them are pretty obvious. There's like Cupid,
Cupid,
Uncle Sam.
yeah. Uncle Sam. Is it like
Uncle Sam.
Is it like one of those like parade Uncle Sams with like the stilts, like the super long?
Oh, for sure. This guy's probably like 10 feet tall. And he's constantly pointing at people like, "I want you."
So like,
I bet that's his whole thing. Like, "I want you."
so let's put a pin in all of that actually, because I think this is going to become a bigger discussion than I thought it was going to, and I'm interested, and I think our audience will be too. But I want to finish talking about the holiday thing before we get too off track and everyone forgets what we were talking about in the first place. So yeah, so we have these 7 holidays, all very American centric. Like I said, the plot of Oogie's Revenge, he kidnaps all the holiday leaders, and it is the 7. Because he calls himself the 7 holidays king. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to become the king of all the holidays, and there's 7. And we know from Bug Day, like I said, that holidays disappear if they are not celebrated. Do you believe that, or do you agree with the theory that I am now coming up with, that the Nightmare Before Christmas world takes place in an alternate history where, for some reason or another, the entire world celebrates only the 7 same holidays in the same sort of way that Americans conceptualize them?
I don't think so.
You don't?
And I'll say this. I think it's because other holidays have their like other countries have their own holiday lands.
So do you think that the events of... So you think that there's different clumps of trees for different countries, and the events of Nightmare Before Christmas are exclusively limited to the American clump of trees?
Yes, but I also do think that like holiday lands can be shared by some countries. Like, countries that celebrate Christmas mostly the same way would have the same Christmas land.
But that raises the question of um, if Oogie Boogie, like, why would he limit himself to just the American ones then? If, by the nature of some of them being shared, he presumably knows that there are other countries worth of lands.
Maybe he doesn't know.
But if, like, the Christmas one per se is shared, wouldn't he be able to find out that way?
I mean, he probably could have found out if he tried to do that research, but maybe he just didn't. Maybe he was like, oh, there are 7 doors, there are 7 holidays, I will take over all of them.
All right. But
Maybe he just didn't think about it hard enough. He didn't look for more holidays.
okay. Will you grant that it takes place in an alternate history where Halloween became a mainstream holiday in France by the 90s?
It probably does, yeah.
Because I'd say, even if you're right about other clumps of trees for other countries existing, which I do agree with, now that you posit it, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's still a little confusing, but I think it works. It's less confusing than trying to imagine how the world got distilled to 7 Americanized holidays. I think it takes a little less mental gymnastics than trying to figure out that one. So,
Yeah.
so I think you might be right about that. But but I think that it still has to function with the lyric of the song mentioning France. I think it still has to have France accepting, presuming that this movie takes place in the 90s because it came out in the 90s. I don't really remember what level of technology the houses in the Christmas section had. I think, didn't they have like landlines, I want to say?
They definitely did. There were phones and cars and stuff. It could really probably take place anytime the latter half of the 1900s, but I don't see any reason to overthink it. It just takes place in 1993.
Yeah, so, but yeah, so then the only real AU would be England and France have both adopted Americanized Halloween as a mainstream holiday by the 90s in this AU.
I believe that.
All right. So I think we really kind of hammered that all down. It is interesting to me, though, that the holidays disappear if they stop being celebrated. I think that...
Which kind of, if you think about it, like, do holiday lands just like start existing as soon as people like just like make up a new holiday? And are those populated? Just how are they populated?
Well, see, that's interesting to think about because another song mentions the like opening song when he's like, "Let me take you to a place you've seen in your dreams," like that song. It mentions specifically that this is where the holidays come from. And I believe there's actually even extended lyrics that I don't remember from the movie, but maybe I just have a poor memory of the song lyrics in the movie, that say that this is where like the holidays got invented and brought to the human world from, which implies that the existence of the worlds exist before the holidays exist, but they also die off after the holiday dies off.
Yeah, see, those two facts, I don't think they can coexist. I don't think the holidays can exist because the worlds exist, and I also don't think the worlds can exist because the holidays exist.
Well, like, it's one of those things...
Oh, it's chicken or the egg. It's chicken or the egg. Okay.
Well, like, I guess... Well, yeah, it's chicken or the egg. But I think it's also, like I know there's been... I can't think of one offhand, because I don't think Percy Jackson did this, but I think there's been... Maybe DC Comics, I want to say? I don't know. But there's some media with, like, pantheons of gods where, like, it has the same, like, weird conundrum where, like, the gods existed before the humans, but if humans stop believing in the gods, they lose their power or fade away. So, like, that like, weird, like, maybe...
So maybe the holidays, like, exist, they existed, but they need to be celebrated to, like, keep existing?
I think that's what it has to be. I think they, like, existed first, but then, like, once they get out there in the world, they're dependent on public opinion, I guess.
So there's some kind of holiday god that makes holidays, and if those holidays do not stick with the general population, those holidays just die off.
Holidays are products. They're the manufacturer makes them, and if they don't sell well, discontinued.
Oh, I know who the holiday god is.
Yeah.
Hallmark.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Hallmark's the holiday god in real life. Hallmark is.
Yeah, exactly.
But Hallmark is a god that plays favorites. We all know
for
Hallmark,
sure.
We all know Hallmark's favorite child. Maybe that's why Jack's so bitter. You ever see a Hallmark Halloween movie? No. In fact,
They've made fall harvest movies.
Fall harvest movies that are literally just the same as the Christmas movies. They just happen to take place during the fall. Like
They just have orange leaves and apple cider.
literally, like the Christmas movies. This isn't a Hallmark episode, but it's becoming one. Like the Christmas movies, like some of them depend on Christmas. Like they have Christmas as a huge plot point. The fall harvest movies, it never matters that it's fall harvest. Like even ones where it's like the harvest festival, you could substitute that out for the winter festival because plenty of the Christmas movies have a festival, and it doesn't make a difference. So you know what? If I was Jack, and I had such a favoritism playing God as Hallmark, I would also kidnap Santa Claus because he's had it too good for too long, and I want a goddamn Hallmark Halloween movie.
Amen.
But yeah, no, I think there we go. Hallmark is the god of the holidays. He creates the holidays. If they don't sell well, they go on deep discount like Bug Day, and then they get discontinued. So that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, we cracked it.
We did. We there you go, guys. You have a very cohesive understanding of how the holiday worlds work now. So before we dig into those more, well, actually, you know what? Now let's dig into those more first, and then we can go back to like how the mechanics of traveling works and things like that. So, all right. So we put a pin in this earlier. We were talking about who the leaders of the holiday lands were, and you had this interesting theory for Independence Day. So, let's hear it. What's your theory on how Independence Day land works?
Okay, so first of all, we got to look at Christmas Town. Okay. Christmas Town is Santa's workshop, and we know in real life, Santa's workshop is at the North Pole.
Yes.
So I believe holiday lands are all just like places on Earth that you can physically go to. Which, like, I mean, which works, because Jack doesn't have to go through a portal to, like, go spread Christmas cheer as spooky Santa Claus. He just flies away.
Well, we need to talk more about that in detail, because that's
an
interesting thing that we need to get into.
So my theory is, I think 4th of July town is Washington, D.C.
That's
all I got.
That's what you got?
Yes, that's what I got.
It's an interesting...
Maybe Uncle Sam isn't the leader. Maybe the leader's just the President of the United States.
But that means that the President of the United States at one point got kidnapped by a conglomeration of bugs in a burlap sack, and...
It was an international incident. I don't know what to tell you.
Apparently. I mean, I guess technically Halloween Town doesn't really get the BBC World News, so we wouldn't have heard about it during the game, I suppose. But okay then, all right, let's push this theory. So St. Patrick's Day would be Ireland. Thanksgiving, I assume you're going to say is like Jamestown or something like that.
Sure.
Whatever the original colony was, that Thanksgiving was allegedly held at. what about Valentine's Day, sweetheart? Where's Valentine's Day?
Um, where does Saint Valentine come from?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I am not a
Wherever
religious
that,
scholar.
wherever Saint Valentine came from,
Oh,
that's what Valentine's Day
we're
is.
not gonna we're not gonna do our homework and look it up for the audience. We're just gonna.
All right, all right, all right. Um, he was born in Terni in central Italy and died in Rome.
Okay, so I guess Valentine's Day land is in Rome, Italy. Which,
Yeah.
see, okay, here's my main issue with this. Now that I think about it more, this throws a huge kink in your like different like tree groups that are like different worlds.
All right. That's
I,
true. Okay, so I don't. Okay, so all of them don't necessarily correlate to a real city. Like, Halloween Town isn't a real city. There's just like probably just somewhere. I mean, maybe it's its own like city state, like its own self-governing city state. That's like maybe they have a seat in the United Nations. I don't know.
I really think that they're all just pocket dimensions, sweetheart.
Then how do they travel? How do they travel?
That's what we need to discuss.
All right, let's get
I
into
think
it.
you've got a point. That's the next thing we need to discuss. We've got Jack, we've got Santa Claus, we've got the leprechaun that I assume runs St. Patrick's Day land, we've got Cupid, we've got Uncle
It's a Lucky
Sam,
Charms
but
guy.
like the stilts one, like a tall one.
Yeah.
And then we've got a turkey. But like, you know what turkey it is? It's like, you know, like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, that like
Yeah.
big
Like a pilgrim
giant turkey with like the hat and
Yeah, a pilgrim turkey.
like, you know, like the stripper collar and like the tie.
Yes.
That's the Thanksgiving mascot, I think. It's that one. I think he has a name, but I don't know it offhand. Um, but yeah. So we got all of them. And something that we're also going to circle back around to is it's highly implied that every holiday has mascots who go out into the real world on their particular holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get into that just yet because it has a lot of implications and we're going to go back to it. But travel.
Travel.
So travel in this series is the most complicated thing I have ever experienced. And it makes no sense.
It really doesn't.
So okay, so just running through the film.
Mm-hmm.
Jack originally arrives at the like Hall of Holiday Doors, or it's called the Hinterlands. It's just a forest. I don't know why I called it that. So he arrives at the Hinterlands. Just running away from Halloween Town. He just runs into a forest and finds the Hinterlands. And then, but there's also a door for Halloween Town in there, so he's not still in Halloween Town because there's a door.
Mm-hmm.
Then later in the film, he flies off in his sleigh, and is able to just fly away. When he gets shot down, he can go through a mausoleum to get back into Halloween Town. In Oogie's Revenge, the final battle right before like Gigantamax Oogie is Jack and Oogie racing each other on Santa's sleigh and the like Halloween sleigh that got rebuilt, I guess, for some reason. And they're like duking it out and they fly from Christmas Town to Halloween Town. So already we have many contradictory paths to places. I'd also like to point out a huge part of Oogie's Revenge is when you're fighting through the game, you don't collect the holiday mascots to conveniently avoid showing what the ones that they don't know who they are look like. But you find the doors because Oogie Boogie stole the doors as like a sort of like double kidnapping, because he kidnapped the leaders and put them in Halloween Town jail. If the doors are not in their place, you can't travel to that region.
Not even from one of the other stated methods?
That is the implication, because a huge problem is Jack needs to collect all the doors, because there's a huge mess where he has to find the Christmas door. because Oogie Boogie's about to ruin Christmas. That's the climax, by the way. He's trying to kill Santa and steal Christmas again. So the climax, it's an interesting game, but the climax gets a little derivative of the film. But so but yeah, like a huge like time crunch is like Jack has to find the Christmas store so he can go there before Santa gets killed so he can save Christmas. And so that implies that like this previously stated methods don't work unless the doors are in place, which on its own implies that only the doors can transport you between regions. And then adding another like almost interesting thing to this is the lore that I talked about from Zero's journey. Jack is trying to make a remote that can like open portals to the other holiday realms with difficulty. He's not succeeding. Which, now that I think about it, could be interpreted as a way of him trying to get around something like what happened in Oogie's Revenge ever happening again. Do you think that might be why he's doing it? He doesn't have a creative motivation. No. He's just doing it.
That would make a lot of sense, especially if Zero's journey is following, like, shortly after Oogie's Revenge.
So, I think that's probably what it is. But then, so now we have countless contradictory explanations for how you travel between realms.
It's really weird. I don't know. I think it's weird that you can just go into a grave and come out in Halloween Town.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand. Because, like, they obviously have to be real physical locations in the real world, or else you wouldn't be able to just, like, fly between them. Like Santa Claus does.
Yeah, no, it's very confusing.
I think the doors thing might even just not be real because it's only in the video game.
But like, the doors are there for a purpose. Like, there's nothing to contradict.
Yeah, the doors let you travel instantaneously between the holidays. But I don't think it's strictly the only method because we see multiple ways of transporting yourself.
You might be right. I mean, I like to think that because the video game hinges on it so much, and then the Zero's Revenge comic not Zero's Revenge, holy shit, Zero's Journey comic seems to bring it back and also hinge on the same point. Because why else would he be working so hard to develop a portal that's not working? Like, if you can travel between them, there's no point to working so hard on an invention that's just failing.
Yeah.
So, I feel like because so much auxiliary media depends on the doors thing being a thing, I feel like it has to be. It has to be asterisk if we're trying to break the lore of the entire series and not like. Because we can just decanonize everything but the movie, and then it'll be a shorter episode. And
yeah, you're right.
But
it's more fun to do it this way.
Yeah, it's more fun to try to canonize the whole thing. So I have a theory.
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay. This is maybe very stupid, but I don't know. Who knows?
Oh boy,
it could be dumb.
Oh, good.
I think all of them are separate pocket dimensions. But I think they all have a portal, like, way up in the sky. Because when Oogie's falling, in the end of Oogie's Revenge, when they're flying past Christmas Town, and he falls into Halloween Town, he falls, like, into the darkness, and he goes past, like, these sort of, like, big, spiky tree-type things. And it almost looks like he's falling, like, into a void, and then out into Halloween Town. So my theory is now, I think, two theories. I think for the mausoleum thing, I think that mascots of their worlds, not necessarily every member, but mascots, can have like special shortcuts, but specifically only to their worlds. Like I think Jack can use mausoleums.
That does make sense.
Don't know what anyone else would use.
But, well, Santa Claus could probably use chimneys.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I don't know. I don't know what anyone else would use though. Like I don't know like what Cupid or the Easter Bunny would use.
I mean, I get that, but I really do think that like any holiday mascot should like, or not even just holiday mascot, just anybody from a holiday town should be able to use those methods to get back to their world. Like,
I mean, if that's what you're gonna split hairs over, I'm fine with that.
okay,
I don't think that damages my theory at all. I was just trying to like make the rules like a little stricter. But if you want like slightly looser rules that don't break anything, I don't sure. Like that's fine with me.
I just okay. One thing that's like getting to me, and probably doesn't really matter, but like
Uh-huh.
in the Zero's Journey comic, we see Zero go through the Halloween portal and come out of Oogie Boogie's grave.
Right, I forgot about that. Although, I mean, okay, counterpoint. Do we ever see in any other media anyone going through the pumpkin door? Maybe that's just the spawn point for Halloween Town.
It probably is, yeah.
Because like the spawn point for Christmas Town is you just like show up on a snowy hill. Um like you don't necessarily like come out the door and end up in like that place's version of the hinterlands. Which I'm gonna get more into the hinterlands in a second. So continuing my theory, I think that each pocket dimension has like you can go out through the roof almost. With like the thought being that it's too high for anyone to necessarily fly through if they're not supposed to. Like Santa, granted, his entire holiday depends on it. So
Right, yeah.
he can fly out through it. Like granted, we don't have much information besides Santa on how any of the holidays get between worlds on their holiday. Um but maybe there's like some kind of special or maybe that just enhances your theory that like that same pathway works. Like everyone in Halloween Town goes through a mausoleum, spawns in the real world, etc. Um, something like that, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I get you. Because I was just thinking, because like they talk about how the vampires they
Oh
go
yeah,
feed,
we're
so
gonna
like
need
they
to.
would need to they
Yeah.
would need to have a reliable way to get back. So like going through any graveyard would
Well,
probably
yeah, like it's the implication is the citizens of every world, when relevant, because obviously the elves don't go, but like the citizens of every world go out into the world on their Halloween or their holiday, and do stuff, which has more implications. So again, we're putting a pin in that one.
yeah.
This episode is just pin after pin, but we're gonna talk about that again later. Um, but so my theory, yeah. So every world is a pocket dimension. Like they're like connected by like a shared sort of like sky zone of some kind, and can be flown between. um and then my like convergent theory, I guess, for the hinterlands is, and stick with me here because this is going to be
All right.
maybe kind of off base. um I think the hinterlands are almost like the lost woods in Zelda. Like
Okay.
it's like its own pocket dimension, but it's one that like you have to
Connects to
kind
all
of,
the others.
yeah, like it's hidden within every other pocket dimension, but you have to find it. um
That makes actually a lot of sense.
like Jack wanders off into the woods, and it's not that he continues through Halloween Town and like the hinterlands just happens to be in Halloween Town. I think he wanders without knowing through a dimensional rift and ends up in the hinterlands.
Yeah, because he seems like he doesn't really know where he's going, and he seems kind of confused when he gets there.
Yeah, like he seems like he just kind of stumbles into the hinterlands and seems
Yeah.
extremely confused, which you'd think that like the king of Halloween Town would be pretty well aware of like what's going on in his country, especially if there's something as big as like doors to every other holiday. Like you'd think
Right.
he would be quite aware of that as the king of Halloween Town.
I mean, in general, I think it's weird that people, like holiday citizens, are completely unaware that other holidays even exist when they're able to go to the human world at will.
See, that feeds into my theory that they can only really go on their day, or that they only really do go on their day.
Yeah,
I think,
I think they just choose to only go on their day.
I think for them to not know about the other holidays. I think both the hinterlands has to be something you can only accidentally find, and like probably also like a pocket dimension within a pocket dimension.
Oh, it's like
And
Narnia. You can only go there when you're not looking for it.
yeah, like well, I'd say the games contradict that, and because you
Oh.
can like go looking for it, but like because I know I thought about that too. I was like maybe it's like I hate to reference something so cursed, but I was like maybe it's like the room of requirement in Harry Potter, where like you have to like need it to find it. But well actually that could still work technically.
You
Um
could.
but either way, I think it's like the Lost Woods where it's like a dimensional rift and you can kind of stumble on it and it's like a weird magical pocket thing that you can't like find easily. You have to just kind of like either know where it is or accidentally find it.
Well, yeah, I think if you know where it is, you can go to it. Because, like, Lock, Shock, and Barrel just, they go there.
Yeah, like I think Jack was able to tell
Yeah.
them like where to find it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's generally like a hidden dimensional rift type thing, and you have to kind of find it to know where it is. But that's my theory for the hinterlands and like why I think they're not actually in Halloween Town, and why I think it makes sense even still that there's a Halloween Town door. Because I think that you can find them from any holiday or even the real world. You just have to like stumble upon the access point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like a real physical location in the world. No one knows where it is.
Well, I mean, it's a pocket dimension. Like I think you can access it from the real world. I just don't think it's like I don't think that like the hinterlands is like, oh, the real hinterlands exist in Ottawa, Canada. You have to go to the specific forest and then bam, there's the holiday doors. I think it's more like you can find an access point somewhere on Earth the same way you can find an access point in Halloween Town, the same way you can find an access point in Christmas Town, and etc.
Hey, if somebody could find it, like in the real world, like if some human person could find it, like, hey, holiday tourism could be a big industry.
Oh, holiday tourism would go crazy. And you know who'd be the captain of it? You know who'd be leading it?
Who?
I'll give you one hint. It's
I'm listening.
God. Hallmark.
Hallmark has found the perfect place to film all their Christmas movies year-round.
Yeah, no, exactly. They would just. That would be horrible, actually. It'd be. Like.
I don't want to see capitalism take over the holiday lands.
Well, I was going to say, what we're basically suggesting is that Hallmark would imperialize Christmas Land. And.
They would, though. Like,
I
they
mean,
would.
I'm literally not saying that Hallmark wouldn't imperialize all of the holiday lands. I think Hallmark would imperialize all of the holiday lands.
They 100% would.
They would go for it. Like, I 100% believe Hallmark would imperialize and colonize the the holiday lands. So I mean, there you go, guys. If you want to go looking for the dimensional rift that leads you to the hinterlands, do it. But maybe like be careful about it. Like there's I don't know. Like sometimes humanity
like-
is not ready for a discovery. You know.
Yeah. I mean, if you're to look for, you're gonna have to be going into some spooky woods. Like, there shady characters hang out there. Just, like, be wary.
Yeah, like it's one of those Jurassic Park things, you know? Like we could find it, but should we?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was a pretty good breakdown of all the holiday realms and like how they interact with the real world, and I think we kind of solved transportation to a degree, unless you disagree with anything I theorized.
I
Or
think we broke the lore.
We broke the lore again. We're breaking it down this episode. We're doing
We're breaking
really,
so much lore.
a really good lore breaking job this episode. So we put a pin. Let's see, what was our last pin? Our last pin was the holiday mascots going into the real world, because I
Yeah.
do want to discuss that more. So yeah, so it's implied in this film, at least from my understanding, that every holiday has mascots who go out into the real world. Again, this is more of an educated guess. The reason I'm guessing it, and you can feel free to disagree, I'll give you a chance to disagree with me,
I'm agreeing with it so far.
because I think the crux of it is like the fact that Halloween has people who go out and do things on the holiday. because like in the real world, Halloween doesn't have a like mascot figure. Like it doesn't have a Santa, it doesn't have an Easter bunny.
It really
Um,
doesn't. Like, I mean, it's just. I guess just all these monsters are just going out because that's why people dress up in costumes so that disguise themselves so the monsters don't get them.
yeah, and like
And that's where this comes from. Like,
it makes total sense. Like I'm
yeah,
not disputing that like holiday. I am not disputing that Halloween could function with ghosts and monsters just like wandering around. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I also think that ties into the original like I guess lore tradition. I'm not sure what word is the best one for it, but like sort of the original
right,
thought
yeah.
and belief behind the holiday of Halloween. So I think it's even kind of interesting that it goes with that because that does again tie into the origin of the holiday more than the modern usage of the holiday, which is really cool to think about.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
Actually, side note, do you think that holidays evolve as their celebration evolves in the real world? Like, do
I
you think?
I really think they do, and I feel like the holiday citizens can like influence that in some ways. Like, I feel like the way the holiday evolves in the real world, and like just what the people who make the holidays want to do are like a symbiotic relationship in terms of how the holiday grows and changes across centuries.
I agree with that because because like now I'm thinking about it and like with the original sort of basis of Halloween, like I could see like Jack totally makes sense. Like Oogie Boogie, even though he's not from Halloween Town, he wouldn't have been an original Halloween Town resident. But like Jack makes sense, like the corpse family makes sense, things like that, the ghosts.
Yeah.
Um, and then, um, but then we also have Lock, Shock, and Barrel, and it almost makes me think that maybe like Lock, Shock, and Barrel were later additions to the town,
I think they are, yeah.
like they sort of showed up or manifested, or we need to put a pin in how these residents come about in the first place as well. Um, a lot of pins, so many pins. Um,
But like, yeah, they're just like they're trick or treaters, so they probably did just come about when trick or treating started to become a popular thing.
yeah, like when it shifted away from like festival celebrating spirits being closer to Earth, that sort of like
Hmm.
belief that I might be slightly botching the origin of Halloween, but I believe that's what the basis was.
Yeah,
Um, and because I know it comes from I think you pronounce it Samain,
yeah.
Samhain. Uh, but yeah, so that's like the origin of it, and so like I don't think that like when it was like Samain Town, like Lock, Shock, and Barrel would have been there. But I think like as it
Oh
evolved
no,
into like
yeah.
the more modern trick or treating Halloween, that's when like Lock, Shock, and Barrel would have sort of manifested. And even per your theory about the symbiotic relationship, maybe Lock, Shock, and Barrel came about and they made Halloween trick or treating come about. Like,
Yeah, chicken or egg again. Like,
yeah. Um,
do they exist because of trick or treating, or does trick or treating exist because of them?
I really like your symbiotic theory. I think that's a really interesting and makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Um, for a single movie and like some subsidiary type things, like it has a ton of very interesting implications with the like hints of world building that we get. Like
It's
it's not
so
even a
weirdly
movie.
deep. Like,
Yeah, like it's not even a movie that's like ridiculously driven by world building. It just like has enough like little bits and hints that like you can find some really interesting things if you probe into it.
yeah, I like it a lot. It's really cool.
Oh yeah. But okay. So holiday mascots go into the real world.
Hmm.
That brings me to the next point I have. This world is strange.
How so?
Well, um, on the more tame side, this is something that we're definitely going to address more in our Christmas special. But this is a rare instance where Santa exists and he's like accepted to exist. Um,
Yeah, no, he's just a fact of life.
yeah. Like, everything about the Christmas in the real world scenes implies that people know Santa exists and expect him to exist. Like, they're not frightened that someone is breaking into their houses dressed like Santa because it's Santa. They're frightened because it's a Santa imposter. Like, they're fully expecting someone to have come into their house to give them gifts. They're just frightened that it's a skeleton giving strange monster gifts.
Yeah, most of the gifts being sentient creatures that are now attacking them.
Yes, that too. But, like, if I remember correctly, even, like, the news broadcasts make a bigger deal about it being an imposter than, like, it being, like,
Yeah.
you know? Like, it's just... Everything about it leads me to believe that they know Santa exists. So, like,
Oh, they 100% do. That's, yeah.
so that's the tip of the iceberg. The deeper part of the iceberg, that means that monsters exist once a year.
Yeah, once a year, just monsters come to Earth and scare people?
But they do more than that.
Yeah.
Because a line that immediately, I think this was the first note we even took. A line that immediately jumped out at me was in this universe. It's hinted at in the movie, and it's shown more explicitly in Oogie's Revenge. They have like an Oscars, Emmys, whatever for Halloween. They give awards for who does the best at different things. The line that's mentioned in the movie is award for most blood sucked, and it's given to the vampires. That stood out to me because it means once a year in this world, there's rampant vampire attacks.
It's really fucked up, yeah.
Just once a year, people get attacked by vampires, and that's just like their life. That's just something they deal with on a yearly basis.
And yet people still go out and celebrate Halloween, dress up in costumes, and get candy. Even though they know there's a possibility of being attacked by a Dracula or some sort of other monster.
Exactly. And it is really interesting to think about how Halloween would be so much different in this world, but they still act like it's celebrated the exact same way.
Yeah.
But like it would be
Still beloved.
It'd be so much different. Like Halloween would be a hated holiday across the board.
A bloodbath.
Like
it'd be like the purge of holidays.
Well, honestly, Halloween Town would simply cease to exist. Because
nobody would want to celebrate it.
People would hate the day so much that they'd just stop celebrating it, and it would stop existing.
I guess people just view vampire death... Maybe vampires aren't, like, deadly. Maybe they don't actually kill people in this one. Maybe they just drink a little blood and move on.
They still attack them, though. Like
they still attack them, but, like... I don't know. Maybe it's just not a big deal to them?
I mean, if it's like a part of their life and they don't die from it, then like it wouldn't necessarily be a bigger deal than like a mosquito or something. But like I still think it's like unsettling to think about the fact that once a year you have to expect that you might get bitten and have your blood sucked by a vampire.
What's a horrifying idea to us is just daily life for them. They've been living with it for centuries. They don't know any other way.
Yeah. It's literally all they've ever known. They've only known
they just accept.
Halloween is when monsters exist once a year and terrify and also attack people.
One thing I think that's like really funny, not necessarily like lore, but one thing that's really funny to me is in Jack's like song when he's singing that he's known throughout England and France.
Yeah.
He also says that there's one guy in Kentucky for whom he is Mr. Unlucky. And I just really like the idea that he targets this one guy in Kentucky every year. And he's like, the Kentucky guy's probably just sick of it. He's like, I hate this goddamn skeleton man who's always stalking me on Halloween. I'm sick of it.
Do you think that this Kentucky man like saw the fake Santa story on the news and he was like, that's him! That motherfucker! He's the one!
I told you guys he's real! I told you! This is the guy! He's coming for me again!
I told you, lanky skeleton man! He's out there and he ruins my life. Now he's back and it's on Christmas. He's gone too far this time. It's one thing on Halloween, but on Christmas, he better not come to
most
Kentucky.
Holy of days!
Like that part at the end of Jurassic Park 3, where the mom is like, I dare them to nest in Enid, Oklahoma. Like, this man cocking a shotgun, like, I dare him to bring that sleigh to Kentucky. I'll show this fake Santa Claus what's what. His nemesis, fake Santa Claus Jack.
I'm just imagining, like, this Kentucky guy, he's like, he like owns like a bar or something, and he's got a picture on the wall of Jack, and it's like, do not serve this man.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, no, him as a bar owner would be just hilarious. Like, since it's Mr. Unlucky, maybe he like gambles a lot too. Like
yeah, maybe he comes up to him in a casino and immediately he loses a whole bunch of money. He's like, "Fuck you, Jack."
What if Jack is just like a really damn good gambler? What if every year Jack goes to a casino that this man frequents on Halloween, because he never learns his damn lesson. He didn't stop going to this casino on Halloween. But he always goes, and this man, and Jack just always sits down at his poker table and just takes him to the cleaners. Just absolutely. I don't know what Jack would even do with the money. I assume Earth currency doesn't really work in Halloween Town. So.
I have no idea.
He just throws it away, I guess. But he's doing it literally just to dick on this man.
It's really funny.
Honestly, I'm glad you brought that up, because nothing is funnier than speculating, like, why this man and Jack have such a rivalry and what this man's reaction to Jack Christmas is. So yeah, it definitely leads to some interesting things that monsters and stuff can like go into the real world on one day a year, or at least do go one day a year. They can go more if they want to, but they don't. In theory, something that also struck me in the movie is so Jack is the leader of Halloween Town.
Yes.
I always giggle a little bit when I say that, because Halloween Town is also a Disney movie. It seems weird to call it Halloween Town, but so he's the leader of Halloween Town, and he like leads it. I want to get into the political structure a little more in a little bit, but like that's not what I'm building towards. Santa is the leader of Christmas Town and leads it, just like real life. And the Easter Bunny doesn't seem sentient or sapient. I always get it confused because I think Star Wars messes up, and I always go off of Star Wars. So
the Easter Bunny could very well not be sapient, but also could. Like, it's the way it's the way the Easter Bunny is portrayed is just such a brief scene that like maybe he was just too frightened to say anything or have any normal reaction.
I guess, but just the way I don't know. It just seems like a normal animal. Like it seems like,
it does.
Like
yeah.
Acting like an animal. It's not like it doesn't have any lines. It doesn't even really carry itself in a way that feels human like. It just seems like it's acting like a giant bunny.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could also be right, and it could just like have been too scared to like act normal. But it does seem weird to me that the movie doesn't seem to portray it as sentient or sapient.
Right, yeah. That's the only other one we see, so we really have no idea what the other one's like. What they're like.
But then the interesting thing about that is, like, I feel like the only other one that could be like that is the Thanksgiving one. Like...
Yeah. If it's just a giant turkey,
like yeah, if it's just like a big turkey, like I think that one would have a chance of being just like possibly just an animal. But like, I mean, assuming St. Patrick's Day is a leprechaun, assuming Valentine's Day is Cupid, assuming Independence Day is tall stilts, not American Sam. What is he? Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam.
I have an uncle named Sam, so I shouldn't have messed that one up. But I really dropped the ball. Um, and like Santa, like, yeah, the turkey's the only other one. But I mean, my theory was it was like the Macy's turkey with like the, like if you're not a sapient turkey, you're not wearing that stripper collar and hat, you know, like
No, like who's putting it on you?
exactly. Which I mean, actually, someone else is putting it on you regardless, because you're not putting it on with that.
Those wings?
Wait,
Psh,
wait a minute.
feathers ain't thingies.
It's that turkey from Chicken Little.
What? Oh yeah,
Yeah, what was? Come on, Chicken Little. What was the last time you
the
saw
Chicken
it?
Little turkey.
There's a mayor turkey.
I haven't seen Chicken Little in probably 15 years.
Yeah, I haven't seen Chicken Little in a really long time either. I just remember the mayor's a turkey.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know. It just struck me as kind of weird, and um, made me wonder. Like, it made me wonder if like every mascot is like the leader of their country, or like if every country has like as organized of a um leadership hierarchy as like Christmas Town and Halloween Town seem to.
I mean, yeah, like at least Halloween Town, if you're ready to get into the political structure.
Yeah,
Like,
let's get into it.
it kind of seems like the mayor's like in charge of the town, but Jack's in charge of Halloween.
That's what
Like
I was
Halloween is what
thinking.
their whole town revolves around, but like he's still not like doesn't have anything to do with like the day-to-day operations of the town. He just focuses on Halloween.
That's what I was thinking, because I remember we were talking about it a little bit during while we were watching it. Like I was like, it's interesting that like there's the Pumpkin King, but there's also the mayor, and I think that's what it is. I think the mayor handles the day to day of like running the town, and Jack is like the ultimate, like he's the decision maker. He rules the country, but doesn't do the day to day, and
Yeah.
he does all the day to day for Halloween. Like theoretically, his daily work is planning for Halloween and making big decisions.
Hmm.
But like the small minutia would be the mayor. But then also
Also,
there's another step in the hierarchy.
uh-huh. Which
Because
is
Oogie's revenge implies that the vampires are like also important political figures within Halloween Town.
are they like the city council or something?
Either that or like advisors to the mayor.
Okay.
So one of the last areas you unlock in the game is the mayor's house. And to get it, you go to the vampire's mansion. And in the mansion, granted, okay, so this is the little like Luigi's Mansion where like some of the facts that ghosts can have keys, you can hand wave as just as a video game, but some of it, like it seems like the story, like Shivers having Melody's key. Like you can like make a story out of that. So fast forward to Oogie's Revenge, which I think is also a GameCube game, so it's not really fast forward so much as like go forward a month or two or something to when this game came out. But so the vampires, when you visit them to get the key to the mayor's house, one of them specifically says, for centuries the vampires have been trusted with the key to the mayor's house, like the sort of
Huh.
like backup mayoral key in case something happens to the mayor. So I think the vampires are also in some way important to the structure. I think they're like his advisors or his backup. It definitely seems like they're the line of succession if something happens to the mayor. Um, it definitely seems like they would be the ones to step up and take over day to day, so Jack doesn't have
Okay.
to.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like it's not really something that we can like speculate on for hours like the other stuff. It struck me as interesting because I was again very interested in the political structure of Halloween Town.
I do want to talk about the mayor real quick.
Yeah, well, what do you got to say about the
Because,
movie?
like, okay. So he's, like, one of the more, like, other than, like, the way his head is, like, that, he's, like, one of the more,
Yeah.
like, human-looking people in the town.
Yeah,
And, like, so, why is he, like, the leader of all these spooky monsters when he doesn't really look that much like a monster? But then I realized, in real life, the real monsters are the two-faced politicians.
You you segued the entire show for that joke, but it was worth it. I liked it.
It was so worth it.
You could say politicians in general are
The politicians in general, but he is two-faced, which is some
Yes,
cutting political
even
commentary from
worse.
The Nightmare Before Christmas.
I remember you said that when we were watching it. The first time his head spun, you were like, "That's some cutting, some true political commentary." Still holds up.
It's still funny.
It's been like 30 years, and the joke about two-faced politicians still really holds up today. I think I made a joke about his one face being orange. I think
That's even funnier today than it was then.
my attempt at cutting political commentary was joking that his one face is orange.
Orange man bad.
But yeah, no. I think the mayor has what you would call informative design, and I think it was definitely intentional. I mean, there's a line.
Oh, it was for sure intentional.
There's a line where he's like, "I can't make decisions. I'm an elected official." Like, he's. Tim Burton writing that one was, or whoever wrote the script. I don't think that was even Tim Burton. I think it was.
No.
I think there was a different scriptwriter. It wasn't Henry or Tim. I don't think. But whoever
It was written by
that
like
one
2 or 3 people, I think.
was
but,
very like. They had an agenda, and they knew what they were going for.
Hey, the political implications of The Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a video essay somebody can make.
You heard it, guys. Your next video essay. Give me a long one about the mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas and what it means for political commentary. That's your job now.
So what else you got? Like, lay something on me.
Mostly just some little things.
All right.
So
We can go rapid fire lightning
like
round.
rapid fire lightning round. Oogie Boogie doesn't die at the end of the movie, which is I thought was interesting when I first researched it.
But Santa Claus stepped on the head bug.
That's the implication, but that's not the case.
Oh.
Because in Oogie's Revenge, like I said, Oogie Boogie's the villain, despite a lot of his bugs dying in the first movie. Like, I think the implication of the movie when it was made is that that was the head bug and Oogie is dead. But you know how multimedia franchises are. You retcon a thing or two along the way.
Somehow Oogie Boogie returned.
Somehow Oogie Boogie returned. I mean, that is basically the game. I was expecting more of a cutscene or something, but it's basically just somehow Oogie Boogie. The dude you like, the Matryoshka dude. He's just somehow Oogie Boogie returned, essentially.
I mean, you had to play Fortnite in 2004 or whenever this game came out to understand.
If you played Fortnite, Lock, Shock, and Barrel came up and they were like, "Hey, we brought back Oogie Boogie. Here's how we did it." That's a pretty decent impression of the girl, if I do say so.
That was good. I liked it.
But I've been doing a lot of impressions, and that was the only one that I think I liked. But yeah, so they brought back Oogie Boogie. So something that made me think about that a little harder. So one of the first, in fact. So, the only townsperson he gets under his thrall in the video game is Dr. Finkelstein. He takes out his brain and replaces it with a green mind control brain. And that got me thinking. In the establishing shot that shows Dr. Finkelstein's lab in the movie, the interior, of course, he has a bug in his lab. Just one of the things he has is a bug. And that got me thinking, what if that is Oogie Boogie's head bug? Or what if that is, or even more, what if Oogie Boogie doesn't have a head bug necessarily? It just needs to have a bug.
Well, where does Oogie Boogie's consciousness come from?
Hive mind.
Okay.
I don't pretend to be a biological expert on Oogie Boogie. But it got me thinking about how he could have survived past the movie, because we see a lot of them burn up. We see Santa stomp the one that was implied to be the head bug. But there is a bug still in Dr. Finkelstein's office that seems like it could potentially be an Oogie Boogie bug. If I recall, it even was potentially the same model as...
It looked similar from my memory.
Yeah, from my memory, I think it might have been the same model as the head bug that got stomped by Santa, or like the alleged head bug. So...
Do you think it might be like a clone of Oogie Boogie's head bug that has his memories?
That could be incredibly interesting. I think that has a lot of potential. Because then really all Lock, Shock, and Barrel have to do is steal that bug and then find some more random ass bugs to make a new Oogie Boogie.
Yeah, and a burlap sack.
And a burlap sack. But then it's probably burlap for days in Halloween Town. It seems like they would have
Oh, yeah. Burlap's a dime a dozen.
Yeah. I don't think his burlap even got destroyed. It just kind of got tossed to the side, so...
No, yeah, he got a thread that was like...
Yeah, so like they could just use the same burlap.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Potentially an explanation for why Dr. Finkelstein is the one that he controls in the game, and an explanation for how in the first place could be that that his head bug was the one that was, or a clone of it. I like that theory. But yeah, so that's an interesting thing about Oogie Boogie that I was thinking about. Continuing the lightning round.
So wait. So does Oogie Boogie die at the end of the game?
It was very unclear. I was looking for that.
Okay.
Like I remember, I don't know if you remember, before we were starting the recording, I was like, I told you I had to keep watching the cutscenes a little bit. I was watching that particular cutscene. The bugs just kind of scurry off, and it's not very clear if he's dead for real this time or what the deal is.
Okay, because like we see his grave in the Zero comic.
Yes. I mean, I assume at this point something is going to have to be done about Lock, Shock, and Barrel.
Yeah.
I assume at this point we really can't just like I'm surprised they didn't get punished in any way for the first movie. But if they brought him back a second time, like I assume something's going to happen.
Right, yeah.
To prevent this from happening again. But yeah, so I Oogie Boogie is soft canon dead at the end of Oogie's Revenge. I think they gave themselves an out if they want to have another story starring Oogie Boogie as the main villain. But I'd encourage them to come up with a new one.
Yeah, let's get some new stories. This is a very rich world. Like,
I mean, I'm still waiting for any world that shows the holidays that aren't Christmas and Halloween.
Yeah, it's wild to me that like there's been this supplementary material and none of it has ever gone to another.
Yeah, like there was even another video game, and that's like ripe for making every world of the game a different world in.
That would have been so cool, and they didn't.
Disney
do
Hire
that.
Media or Video Games Division. Let me pitch this. Nightmare Before Christmas. Every world is a Nightmare Before Christmas RPG. Every world is a different holiday world.
Like multiple video games, comics, and even like it's in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
None of them go to anything other than Halloween and Christmas.
It's really surprising to me. I forgot it was in Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. Yeah. No, it really is. That's one of the greater. In addition to Lock, Shock, and Barrel, I feel like that's another source of untapped potential in the franchise that would be interesting to explore more.
I agree.
But, just looking through the rest of the stuff I have, just tiny things. Similar to the Kentucky thing, I found it funny that Jack doesn't know what snow is, but he knows what mistletoe is.
That's really funny, but I also like that when he sees snow for the first time, he scoops up a big handful of it and eats it.
I'm not saying that Jack has...
He doesn't know what it is, but he eats it off the ground.
I'm not saying Jack's eaten dirt before, but Jack has eaten dirt before. Like...
Jack probably eats dirt normally. I mean, he's a skeleton.
That's true. There's no real consequence to eating dirt. But yeah, no,
he was probably buried in dirt.
It is funny that he doesn't know it's frozen water, but he still just puts it in his mouth. Just like...
Yeah.
Just for fun. Something we debated that I don't really know if we have a clear answer on. is Sally psychic or are the flowers psychic? There's like little flowers that she picks to have visions, and it's not clear if
Yeah.
she's having the vision or if the flower is giving her a vision.
Yeah, no, I remember talking about that when we watched the movie. Like, if can anybody just pick one of these flowers and have a psychic vision, or does she just have these visions and it happened to be when she was picking that
As
flower?
far as I know, we don't know. If it's in supplementary
really
material that I didn't come across, feel free to comment and tell us we're stupid. And that the
I would love an answer. I'm happy to be wrong about stuff
no,
like
yeah.
this. Like,
What's your theory? Is your theory Flower or Sally?
I kind of feel like it's her.
Okay. I also side Sally. That was I think what I think. I think Sally has the visions and the flowers are just kind of added flavor.
Yeah.
And then just two tiny things. Snakes have arms, which is weird. Um,
Yeah, there was that snake in the dye
Yeah.
that just had little tiny vestigial
Oogie
arms.
Boogie's little pet snake has like little finny little arms. That's not really lore. It's funny to me that Halloween Town snakes have arms. Um, and oh, and then the last thing. This is more like a something funny. Maybe a coincidence, maybe not. I'm not particularly tuned into Undertale to know if this is like something that's ever been addressed. In the scene where Dr. Finkelstein is working on making his bride, um, when he's circling through the heads, there's a skull that looks damn near exactly like Papyrus from Undertale.
He does. It's weird. It's really funny.
Like, I mean, like, obviously, I'm not sitting here saying that Nightmare Before Christmas has an Undertale reference because that doesn't make sense. It came out years and years before. But
Yeah, predates it by like 20 years.
I would be curious if anyone's ever like asked Tony Fox or if he's ever said anything about if this was an intentional like he saw that design in the movie and he was like, that's cool, I'll make a character out of that, or if it was just a pure coincidence that they look damn near identical.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be either. I don't think
It really
I don't
could.
think I lean
don't know.
either way. I just think it's one of those fun bits of trivia that, like, if Toby Fox tweeted tomorrow that Papyrus was inspired by that skull, I would be like, there you go, makes sense. But if he tweeted that he'd never even seen it before, I'd be like, yeah, well, you know what, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
But
There's only so many ways you can draw a skeleton.
it's true. It's true. It's more for me the mouth. Like the mouth was the same, like
Yeah.
big, like toothy,
The way
like
he's got that like long
happy
face,
open,
yeah.
and like the kind of pointed skull face.
Yeah.
I think the chin was a little longer, but for the most part, it was very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, I think the last big thing. Oh wait, sorry. So last thing on the lightning round that I can think of is Sally and Jack canonically have kids.
Yeah. Several. Of
Yeah,
them.
that was from the drama CD that we mentioned. Or no, it's just the soundtrack. This is in Japan.
The soundtrack has an epilogue at the end where Santa Claus comes back a few years later and he sees that Jack's got like skeleton kids now.
So Bone Daddy
Bone down.
Daddy got some. I'm not even going to try to think about how that works. I don't want to. I don't really want to think about how a skeleton man and a rag doll managed to have children. Some things are better left. Some lore is better left unbroken.
If you really want to know, I know a website you can go to find out.
Is it like a porn website?
It's Rule 34.
Oh, yeah, wow. I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure I could find many answers on that website as to this question. But I'm siding with some lore deserves to be unbroken. I mean,
I do want to.
I was just going to say the boring answer is that they just built them. Like,
I mean, yeah.
the boring answer is that,
If you can just build skeleton deer, I don't see why you can't just build skeleton
yeah, like you
kids.
could just build skeleton ragdoll hybrid children. Like, but that's the boring answer. I want to believe that they had sex, and I don't want to believe that I know how that worked. So.
They can have sex, and it doesn't have to be where the kids came from. They can those two facts can coexist. Also, I do want to say, like, I didn't know she was a rag doll. I thought she was a
Oh, I've
Frankenstein.
always thought that she was like a zombie or a Frankenstein, but I like had that thought right before we started recording. I was like, I don't want to look like a fool. So I so I googled it. I was like, is Sally from the Nightmare Before Christmas? And then like in the like suggested questions, a rag doll came up and I was like, uh-oh. So I clicked it and yeah, she's apparently canonically a rag doll. She's not made of corpse parts like I assumed she was. Which actually, to be fair, that does answer the question that I had when we were watching it. When she like is stuffing herself with leaves, I was like, wait, she doesn't have like bones or muscles or organs or anything? And
She's got leaves. Yeah,
she's got leaves. Um but that does explain it. But yeah, Sally's a rag doll.
Not a
Not a
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Despite being created by someone who is clearly a parody of Frankenstein. So, a little mixed messages on that one.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably why I thought she was a Frankenstein. Like, she looks like she's made of stitched up corpse parts and, like, she was created by a Dr. F.
Literally
Stein.
named Finkelstein. Like, it's not pretending he's not a Frankenstein XP. So we're getting towards the end of the episode. The last thing that I remember we said we'd circle back to, and I totally forgot. Where the people from these holiday worlds come from. We can discuss like the canon lore, but then I believe you had a certain old fanficky theory akin to my ghost theory that people voted in our Twitter poll that they liked that. So if you guys like it, if it can't be every episode, but if one of us happens to have an old fanficky theory from back in the day, we can share it at the end of the episode if we have one. Since you guys
Let's start with the real lore.
Yes.
What do we know?
What we know. Jack has died before, I think. Because I think when he gets shot down, they mention double dead or something like that.
He also does say, one of the lines in one of the songs is, "Since I am dead, I can take off my head."
Yeah, that's his introduction song. And then recite Shakespeare.
Yeah, he literally describes himself as being
yeah.
dead.
He calls himself dead. So,
Which may just be because he's a skeleton. Maybe he was born a skeleton, but like, I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. Do you think that like he's a real dead person, or do you think that he was just born that way?
Well, we can get into my theory.
I mean, yeah, like there's really not. I know I talked a big game about there being canon lore before your theory, but I don't think there really is much. It's mostly just like, do you want to speculate? Like, are the hanging people on the hangman tree actual humans from the human world? Are the
That'd be really.
It would be really. I mean, the whole concept of the hanging tree is really fucked up. It's a sentient tree with corpses hanging from it.
Yeah. I know I wouldn't want to have corpses hanging from me all the
Nah,
time.
me neither. But in the video game, he loses them, and he's quite concerned. So they have. It seems like they have a sort of like rhino and that bird. Something.
They also have a
Something
symbiotic.
fucker. Yeah, like a
relationship.
symbiotic. Like the hanging tree likes having the skeletons, and the skeletons feel less scared when they have the hanging tree. So it's sort of they're bonded. They're a group. But yeah, let's hear what you have. Let's give the people what they want.
Okay, so when I was a kid, this is just like what I assumed from watching the movie. And like there's not much like textual evidence for it other than like Jack saying that he's dead and the way he can go through a graveyard, a little tomb to come back to Halloween Town. I just assumed that like holiday lands are a form of afterlife, and when people die, they become like residents of whatever holiday they loved the most.
Interesting.
And specifically Jack was like neck and neck Halloween and Christmas, but Halloween barely edged it out, and that's why he kind of got tired of it and wanted Christmas.
That's an interesting theory. I really like the thought of that. That's like it's like did you ever see that Tumblr post? I think it was a Tumblr post. it was like, what if the afterlife is a bunch of realms based on the seven deadly sins, and you go to whichever deadly sin you love most. Like, lust is just like a massive orgy all the time. Gluttony is like you're eating good food all the time. Greed,
My favorite sins.
greed, you're overwhelmed with wealth, like things like that. Um, it reminds me of that Tumblr post, but like for this movie. I mean, of course, your theory, since you were a kid, predates the Tumblr post, so good for you. But
Hey.
it feels similar, and I mean, I like it. I think it's kind of fun. I think it's interesting. I think it does somewhat help along. Like, granted, it means there should be way more residents than we see, but there's nothing saying that there isn't, because this is just the main town. And we never see outside the main town, and also because every character is made of like physical clay figures, you can't really
Yeah, they could only have a limited number of.
go buck wild
residents.
on the extras. I like it though. I mean, per that theory, does that mean Lock, Shock, and Barrel and the corpse? The corpse kid? Did they die as children?
Yes.
Oof.
And Lock, Shock, and Barrel probably died trick-or-treating.
You think so?
They died in their Halloween costumes, that's why they can't take them off.
I mean, that raises an interesting question though, because remember, we discussed the like concurrent symbiotic relationship between things showing up in the Halloween realm and influencing how the holiday evolves in the real world.
I didn't say that my childhood fan theory correlates at all with the lore we've broken earlier in this episode. I'm not saying it makes any sense. I'm just saying this is what I thought as a kid.
Well, I hate to poke holes in your clearly juvenile understanding of the film. I'm just joking. I do like your theory. I don't think it like gels with any of the lore that we've broken, but I really like it from a like standpoint of just it's interesting. It's fun. I think it's really cool.
It's fun. Like, I don't think it like makes much sense in terms of like the actual lore of the movie, but if you're just watching the movie on a surface level, I think it can work.
Yeah. So like, how does it? Do you get to decide what like monster you reincarnate as if you go to Halloween Town, or like, does it like read your
I think
soul and like
not.
gives you whatever like it feels represents you best, or?
I think it was kind of like a Sorting Hat type deal.
Damn, you got two Harry Potter references in this episode.
But like, I also kind of feel like the people, like, they don't remember their old lives.
I mean, that makes sense.
This was just like, yeah, it's like a reincarnation, and they don't remember it. They don't. And this is just how they live now. They live as these horrible nightmare monsters.
Yeah, that's just, and they don't seem upset with it. Like,
No, they seem to genuinely enjoy their lives. They love Halloween. They love scary things.
yeah, everyone in Halloween Town seems very pleased and very in their element.
They're all about killing and everything. Like,
I mean, they are, yeah. Like, I was laughing, but they are like their gifts involve like a dead turtle, like a dead rat. Like,
yeah.
they are very much cool with killing and death.
Yeah.
So I like that theory. I guess we can like bring. Unless, do you have more to say about it?
No, I never thought too deep into it, really. Like, what I've said is basically all I ever came up with.
So then I guess we can close out the episode before we do like goodbyes and promotions and stuff. What holiday would you reincarnate into?
Mine would be Christmas.
I think I knew that. I think you sure you don't want to reincarnate into Thanksgiving?
No.
Are you sure?
What would be yours? I'm sure. I'm definitely
mine-
sure. Christmas is very special to me.
Aw. Want to share, or we can say that for a different episode.
No, there's not a reason for that. I just really like Christmas. I like everything about
It's
it.
cute. Mine would also be Christmas, but I think it would be similar to Jack, where it's like a relatively close race. Because I have really warmed up to Halloween. I like Halloween a lot.
You strike me as a Halloween.
Yeah, but I think Christmas would win out. But I think it would be super close. Like maybe I would be a Christmas elf, and I would get like some sort of malaise and want to be kind of scary.
Oh no, you would be like one of those classic Christmas ghosts.
Yeah, I'd be the ghost of, I don't know, whichever Christmas you want me to be. Well, I think Christmas Past is usually the one that gets depicted as a girl. I think they're non-binary in the actual text. But yeah, that has a lot of potential for a future episode. So maybe even the next one, Christmas themed. We need a Christmas themed episode. Not committing, but maybe. And speaking of episodes, I think that brings this one to an end.
That's gonna do it for us, baby.
Yeah, we broke the lore of The Nightmare Before Christmas and its extended properties.
We did so much.
We did. This was a very good episode in terms of like actual like broken lore and theorizing and breaking stuff down. I remember when we were watching the movie, I was very excited, and I think that proved to be correct.
Oh yeah, it ended up being. I wasn't really jazzed about the idea of doing an episode on Nightmare Before Christmas going in, but once I started watching the movie and realizing how much there really is to talk about, I got really excited about it.
No, yeah, like the movie just had a ton. Like from the very first scene, I realized we had a gem. We had a hit on our hands with episode content. So I'm very pleased with what we've discussed today.
I feel like this episode turned out very well.
Me too. I hope you guys like it too.
Yes, thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, there's a whole backlog you can listen to if you haven't heard us before, and also you can check out our Patreon. You can check out all of the wonderful shows available on the Dude Media Network.
Yeah, you should check out all of our stuff. Check out all of our links, which are in the episode description. As usual, check out our Twitters, my Twitter, Sarah's Twitter, and the podcast's Twitter to keep up with my personal life and dumb media thoughts, her personal life and jokes, and the show's promotions and little commentaries. Again, subscribe to our Patreon if you want to support us in a more financial way, if you can, of course. Don't do it if you can't. Cool rewards, like you can do Q&As with us. We're going to do, depending on the level you sign up for, Q&As, shout-outs, media commentary. If you want to hear us watching a movie like The Nightmare Before Christmas and commenting on it. We do a lot of out-loud commenting when we watch things.
We do. Honestly, that's kind of why we started doing a show like this, is we just make comments about that kind of stuff when we're watching movies.
So, like, you sign up for that tier, you're going to get some really, just like even really funny off-the-cuff jokes. We make a lot of jokes when we're watching things that I think are pretty funny. So, sign up for that tier if you want to hear stuff like that. And yeah, thank you for supporting us. If you liked the episode, you know the little YouTube end of episode slogan, sort of like the episode, share it, tell your friends, subscribe. But yeah, tell your friends. We're trying to build an audience now that we're back from hiatus. I appreciate you guys supporting us and sticking with us through hiatus. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening, and happy holidays early.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good fright.
Wow, that's really the ending note of this episode, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Good night.